guys, how's it going? It's Al. Today, we're going to go over some late round players. It's very easy to name off, the top 12 in ADP, the top 24 in ADP. Here are the top 3 running backs on the year. It's much harder to try and figure out who are those players after ADP of 100 who are going to be useful to you in your best ball drafts, your friends and family drafts, and the way that you're attacking. So I like to put out a couple of videos every single season identifying some players with lower ADPs that I think can outperform and give you a profit at where they're at. I have a list of them. I have 8 of them at all different positions: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and I've got a tight end for you that you should be checking out a little bit later in ADP who could provide top 12 value at the position. So thank you guys for being here. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell because I come out with a ton of content here on the Fantasy Football channel. And please leave me a reply down below, but please refrain from pointing out that any one of the 8 players on this video has warts. And I don't know about this player. Aren't you worried about? They're all after pick 100. You got to worry about something with every single one of them. But I think that they can outperform their ADP and help your fantasy teams out. So let's go.
He's a legend.
Let's start with the cover boy, Daniel Jones, an ADP of 114. Last year had a tremendous season. He's going to make it's his second stop on this video. I can't believe where he's being drafted. 114th on ADP. He's not going to be a league. He's not going to be the guy, I think, that carries you to a league championship in your best ball drafts, best ball mania, weekly winners. However, you do need more than one quarterback in those leagues. Best ball is a war of attrition. You have to be drafting your number 1 stack, your bringbacks, your week 17 correlation. And Daniel Jones, although he has an unfortunate bye week that matches with a lot of other players that are very popular, that week 13 and week 7 are both going to be very difficult bye weeks to navigate this year. But if you have a primary quarterback that does not match bye weeks with him, I absolutely love Daniel Jones's floor and ceiling as a player. His rushing ability completely unlocked last season. Love the coaching staff change. I like what they've done in New York. One, with the way that they're running offense, and his skill set is perfect for fantasy scoring. He gives you enough of a floor every week with his rushing ability. They throw the ball a lot. He did not have, or I think they're going to throw the ball more this year. He didn't have a ton of touchdowns last year, but he was buoyed by those 7 that he scored on the ground. 17 touchdown passes in 2022, 3,600 yards, including all games. That includes the 1 playoff game. But another year in this offense, more confidence in his receiving core. And they did pick up Darren Waller, who should buoy things and I think lead this team in terms of targets and target market share, which helps everybody else that's on the outside because they have differentiated skill sets from what Darren Waller does, which will help Daniel Jones. Anytime that you can attack defensive coordinators with a running threat quarterback, with guys at the short, intermediate, and deep ranges, they added Jalen Hyatt, who is one of the fastest players maybe ever in the NFL, not based on his 40 time, but based on on-field speed from what we've seen from next gen stuff through the preseason and practices versus the fastest player we've ever seen on the field in a game. He's like right there with them, in addition to the other players that they have. So I kind of like Daniel Jones's upside again this year. We were drafting him last year. He's on the list again. Now, Richardson at 104 still makes the list. Here's a player who does have league winning upside. And you're going to say, oh, he can't throw. He only completed this many passes. That team's going to be terrible. Team being terrible does not matter. Okay? Richardson could throw for 15 to 20 touchdown passes. He is bigger than just about every quarterback that's out there. We're talking about a Cam Newton-sized quarterback who runs really, really fast. And we saw what a plus-sized quarterback, even though Justin Fields does not strike people as a big quarterback, he's bigger than most people think. He's very tall, very strong quarterback. And when you get that guy out there and running, and you stake the offense on their ability to do that, and you say, you know what, we can't really throw efficiently yet, but in order to move the chains, we're going to have some design runs for this quarterback. Let him play some read option. Let him understand what he can do through RPOs. Keep things simple. And when you have a running quarterback and a young quarterback like this, it's very easy to give them a single read off of play action and a single read off of RPO, which means that most of the targets are going to go to the player it should go with in Pittman. it can help a player's efficiency as far as that. So if he has that sort of a ceiling, and when you're playing in best ball, you're drafting for upside, you're drafting for best case scenario, you're drafting as though you're right at the time of the draft. If Anthony Richardson has a top 5 percentile outcome for himself, it is a Justin Fields-like season, which means he is a top 5 quarterback or possibly a top 3 quarterback if he runs for enough touchdowns. And now you're looking at a situation where you're drafting him after pick 100. He does have that possible league-winning upside for you. So Jones, higher floor, not as high a ceiling as Richardson, in my opinion. Better passer, but Richardson's ability on the ground for those big plays strikes me as somebody who could have a Justin Fieldsian sort of season as a part of his ceiling. His floor, though, is that he could get benched. There is risk in this pick, because if a coach is always going to try and do what they have to do to win, they're not worried about, well, I'm going to groom this guy for 3 years down the road. We've seen that with Trey Lance, who just sat, got injured, and then sat, and then got injured and sat, and now he's probably going to sit again this year. So there is that type of miss in there, like there was in San Francisco when we were drafting him a couple of years ago with the same sort of profile. DEVON ACHANE or DEVON ACHANE. Big playability. Scored a ton of touchdowns in college the last couple of years. Miami has a bunch of guys at running back. They needed somebody who stands out, and they got one in ACHANE. So Mostert, very fast. They got Wilson, who's like, he's fine, but they went out and got this kid. ADP right now of 116, very dynamic running back, fits into this offense. They're going to find the way to get him the ball in space. The hope here is that he gets 10 to 15 touches per game, or let's say opportunities and not touches, with maybe 10 carries and 4 targets a game. If he gets that sort of a volume, this ADP is entirely too low, especially because defenses are going to not be able to stack the box because of the ability on the outside with Waddle and Hill. Tua, as long as he, like, I heard he was taking judo classes or jujitsu classes in the offseason, which is great because homie needed to learn how to fall. He fell like a sack of bricks anytime somebody touched him trying to fight for extra yards. Hopefully he just does the Mahomes and crumble, the Aaron Rodgers and crumble. If somebody gets near you, just fall. Don't fight for that extra yard and get your head slammed backwards into the field anymore. Please stay healthy. I'm really scared for Tua. One more concussion, he could be done, but as long as he's on the field, this offense is going to run extremely smoothly. And very few teams are going to, running backs specifically, are going to run against lighter boxes consistently than the Miami Dolphins backfield. Our next back on this one, Brian Robinson Jr., who's in our another candidate who was in our video for 0 running back targets. If you have not watched that video, definitely go check that one out as well. ADP of 108, it's climbing. This may be the last week that you can get him after pick 100. I just did a draft with Herzig on Establish the Runs channel, and we make this mistake every year. As drafters, as best ball drafters, yes, we draft for upside, but the assumption that a player who was a wide receiver in college has got more upside than the lead back is this narrative that we fall for every year. We did it last year with Cook versus Singletary. We did it a couple of years ago when James Robinson was a rookie, where everybody missed on him. And Brian Robinson Jr. kind of fits that mold. He is the guy that they want to be the guy. Now, he was inefficient last year when he came back from a GSW, but he is healthy now and running really well in camp. Totally healthy, very fast, runs extremely hard. He is the preferred back, 60 to 65%, in my opinion, of the running back touches in that Commanders running back room are going to go to Brian Robinson Jr. And the argument for drafting Gibson ahead of him, and right now Gibson is going like 12 to 14 picks ahead of him on ADP, is that, well, if Robinson Jr. gets hurt, then you have Gibson, who's going to step into a 70-75% role, and as good as he is in the passing game, we have this tremendous player. Yeah, but like, what if Gibson gets hurt? Nobody ever mentions that. What if Gibson gets hurt? Now Robinson's the 75% guy. Instead of getting 1 or 2 targets a game, now he gets 3-4 targets a game, much like Connor a couple of years ago when everybody was drafting Edmonds 4 rounds ahead of Connor. Connor was the plotting 12 carry guy who got the goal line work. Robinson, not a plotter, but will be the guy who gets the goal line work. And then Edmonds goes down, and now James Conner was one of the most valuable picks in fantasy, because now he became a 20+ touch guy with pass game work and the inside the 5 work. He became a 5-box running back. I'm of the mindset that if you're going to create a narrative that one running back can get injured, and any running back can get injured. So So if you're saying, well, if Robinson goes down, then therefore Antonio Gibson can become this league-winning running back, it also works the other way. If Antonio Gibson gets hurt, who's going to fill those snaps and touches? It's probably going to be the guy who's already playing 60% of the snaps and touches. For that reason, I like Robinson Jr. Tank Bigsby is going to steal more snaps and touches from Travis Etienne than most people believe. His ADP has flown from 145 to about 131 as of this morning. The 6-foot running back from Auburn does look like he might steal some inside the 5 work. They've already shown that as good as this pissed me off last year, it's still pissing me off right now. You can see me getting heated already. Travis Etienne was so good in college at catching the football, and he gets the Jaguars. They don't throw him the football. They're just throwing it to other dudes. And then, because this regime did not draft him, this regime goes out and drafts Tank Bigsby. And Bigsby is looking fantastic in camp. Coaches are talking about, like, when you get coach, he's been a sponge when it comes to learning the offense. That's like the biggest problem for rookie players, specifically running backs: pass protection and understanding where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there. Drafted a 3rd-round running back. Looks like they're going with the philosophy that I suggest of draft a running back, then you wait a year, you don't draft a running back. Then you draft another one in the 3rd round, then you wait a year, you don't draft him. Then the next year, you let that first running back walk, go to free agency, then you draft another 3rd-round running back, and you just have a constant rookie scale running backs every other year on a 3rd-round, 4th-round draft price. Bigsby right now is that 40% guy, in my opinion. He's going to get enough touches. And at 131, as your RB4, RB5 in your lineup, makes for a perfect 0 RB guy, can turn into somebody who competes for a league winner situation in the case that he goes down, in the case that Etienne happens to struggle and suffer with an injury. It's a possibility at running back. You want to draft these players who have a massive ADP gap, and going from an ADP of like Etienne in the 30s to 100 picks later at Tank Bigsby is too wide of a gap for a player who is already on the field and prioritized and drafted by this coaching staff. Marvin Mims Jr. was already a sleeper candidate. Rookie, ran a 4.3840, drafted in the 2nd round, and now Tim Patrick, unfortunately, has already struggled and suffered with that injury. He's going to miss the entire season. So Mims immediately gets elevated into like that wide receiver 3 conversation. He's not going to be ahead of Judy. He's not going to be ahead of Cortland Sutton, but he is in an offense that does prioritize passing and uses 3 wide receivers, that Sean Payton offense, more than most teams do. And though that has become more in vogue the last 5 years, Payton will find ways to scheme the ball to his best players and his most dynamic players. And Mims's ADP right now is 149.7. Far too cheap. You can get him as a wide receiver 6, 7, 8, depending on where you are drafting that play. And I think that there is inherent value here that he, if nothing else changes, the big thing already changed. He was the wide receiver 4, now he's the wide receiver 3. So moving him up the depth chart for as a dynamic a player as he is, now he's going to get a little bit more consistent snaps, more consistent target market share. I think that he will move way up, probably to the 125 to 130 range by the time draft month is over. So there is already profit where you are drafting him. He makes for a fantastic week 17 stack if you've got Chargers with low draft equity that you're gonna have to spend to get that bring back stack, or if you plan to stack Chargers at the beginning of the draft and somebody snipes Herbert from you, it's gonna happen. That's just gonna happen to you. He may not make it back to you. It's very easy to then go with a late round stack of Russ Wilson. You target somebody in the 90s like Cortland Sutton, couldn't include him in this video, and then get Marvin Mims as well, or Dulcich. Makes for a nice bring back week 17 or backup stack to your early round Chargers that you picked. Isaiah Hodgins does kind of go along with Daniel Jones. ADP right now of 168.4. Hodgins finished the year extremely strong. 9 targets, 5 targets, 12 targets, 4, 6, 6 touchdowns in all of these games. In like the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games, he had 5 touchdowns. He clearly has rapport with his quarterback. Now, yes, he is not going to lead the team in target market share. In my opinion, that's going to be Darren Waller, but I do think he's going to lead the team in terms of wide receiver market share. He's going to be the first guy that Jones looks for on the outside. And there's value in that. He's got other players that he can go to, but none of them have showed the consistency in terms of catch rate, in terms of separation, in terms of being open. And we know that Waller is a guy that operates within the first 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. That's where he roams. That's where he operates. Hodgins outside the hashes gives him somebody else to go to as Hyatt takes the roof off of that defense. So Hodgins has space where he can operate. And at 168.4, I hate saying that he's free, but like, he's not expensive, right? You're drafting him at that range in drafts. You've already got 5, 6, maybe 7 wide receivers on your team. It's not out of the realm of possibility. You're drafting him as like the wide receiver 60. It's not out of the realm of possibility that he can end the season as a wide receiver 3, being in that top 36 at the position, based on the run-in that we saw him have on volume, on offense, on coaching, on scheming, and on the talent that he showed later in the season. I love the price on Isaiah Hodgins. I have no idea why he's drafted this low right now. Maybe it'll correct. I hope that it doesn't. He's probably going to end the season. We'll do that video right around that last week, the 2 weeks before the season starts, of my most drafted players. I'd be shocked if Isaiah Hodgins does not end up on the list as one of my most drafted, most clicked wide receivers in 2023. And the last player on the list is Irv Smith. I don't hate Irv Smith. Not at all. Nothing could be further from the truth. I do worry about Irv Smith's fragility. He could be a little Italian. He's a bit fragile. We understand this when we draft him. But his ADP at 163 and the offense that he's in, and what we've seen that offense with this quarterback and that coaching staff existing with guys like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, whether it was CJ Uzoma, whether it was Double H Hurst, or whether it's going to be Irv Smith, if there is a tight end on the field who has athleticism and can play and can catch the ball, they're going to get thrown the ball in a very viable, high-powered offense and score enough fantasy points to be well worth your while being extremely underpriced on a week-to-week basis in terms of daily fantasy, or on a redraft basis or a best ball basis. 163 is far too cheap for a Bengals starting tight end. Now, hopefully, the Bengals medical room, the training staff, can keep Irv on the field for 15 plus games this year, because if he's on the field that often, he is going to absolutely smash. I wish you guys the best of luck. All of your drafts, whether you're drafting in Best Ball Mania, whether you're drafting on DraftKings, Drafters, or in your friends and family league. Thank you all for being here. Subscribe to the channel. Look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.